We begin on Capitol Hill, where hearings were held today on the issues of cybersecurity and transparency. The Obama administration has placed cybersecurity on the top of the agenda, but there's a heated debate over how to tackle the issue while protecting citizens' privacy. And when it comes to transparency, the Obama administration has vowed to be more open. But from the secret drone campaign to cracking down on whistleblowers, some question just how transparent the administration really is. For more on the developments on Capitol Hill today, I'm joined now by RT producer Adriana Usero and RT correspondent Meghan Lopez. Welcome, ladies. So I'm going to start off with you, Adriana, because you were at this cybersecurity hearing today. And of course, it is becoming more of a priority these days. What did lawmakers target as the biggest cyber threats that face the U.S. today?
You know, Liz, it was interesting. There was sort of, I mean, we're all used to hearing the same old rhetoric of certain state actors that are behind many of the attacks that are now, currently affecting the U.S. However, in this case, it was interesting. That was kind of dialed down. In this hearing, per se, what we were talking about or seeing more so was state actors versus domestic actors. So, in other words, the Department of Justice was actually warning against local threats much more than those abroad. So it was sort of interesting to see that it was sort of like a change of the script in that regard.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of cyber legislation try to make its way through Congress aimed at tackling cybersecurity here in the U.S. It seems like they're focusing more on state threats, as you had mentioned. But there always is this question of how to take this measured approach and how to balance security and privacy. How did they address that today, or did they?
They actually did, which was rather refreshing. Everyone at that hearing was willing to play ball, both Republicans, Democrats, which is very interesting now that we're in sort of such a bipartisan climate. Both camps were very much interested in taking an approach of safeguarding our freedoms, our liberties, but also being able to get at the certain actors, again, the bad actors, that's what they kept on referring to, hackers, if you will, get at those people that are causing all of these disruptions. So it was very, very interesting. They still want to be able to keep those accountable that make all this trouble, but also protect us in the process.
Yeah, I want to play because I understand that you spoke to Mr. Oren Kerr, a law professor from Georgetown University. Want to take a listen to what he had to say, and we'll weigh in on it right after.
Within the government, they think, well, we trust us, we will do a good job exercising this discretion. The problem is those of us on the outside don't have that assurance that they're actually going to exercise their discretion wisely. And you never know. One administration is going to be replaced by another administration, and there are lots of different federal prosecutors out there, and we don't want to give tools to any one prosecutor that person should not have.
Okay, so going along with what Mr. Carr was saying there, can you talk about this fear of cyber legislation kind of going too far and possibly giving too much power to prosecutors?
I mean, that was sort of the entire feeling throughout the hearing. It was, they're talking about that measured approach. And a lot of legislators were worried that our existing laws are already broad enough that in order, having to introduce different types of legislation might not be the answer. The answer might be to just limit and narrow the scope of the things that already exist. So that includes the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. That includes all the different types of legislation that already exist now, and try to work within the parameters that already exist. So that was very interesting to hear.
Interesting. I want to get to Meghan now because you also were at a hearing on the Hill today, and this one was in relation to transparency. And this hearing was aimed at examining the Open Government Act. Here we are 5 years later after that that law was enacted. Are our agencies complying?
Oh, there is cautious optimism on the part of the senators, what they were expressing. What we do know is that they said that the Obama administration is going above and beyond this act, and what it's requiring is actually an add-on to the Freedom of Information, the FOIA Requests Act of 1966. So they are saying that the Obama administration isn't only complying with the Freedom of Information Act requests, they're actually going beyond that and opening up this information. However, a lot of the agencies actually are not complying at all. So I brought up crop, it is all of the agencies. There's 100 agencies. The ones that are in green are the ones that actually are complying with the 2007 law. The ones that are in red are the ones that are not complying with the 2007 law. And in addition to this, there are 6 more agencies that are not complying with the 2009 Obama administration requests to add on to this Open Government Act. So we are seeing optimism, but we're not anywhere near where we need to be yet.
I think those props did a good job of showing, because we saw a lot of red there, meaning there's a lot of agencies that are not complying. And I understand that the Justice Department has taken some heat over its policies. How did they defend their Freedom of Information track record today?
They are actually the most egregious of all the different agencies in not updating their regulations. And the woman that was actually representing the department, her name is Melanie Putze, and she took quite a beating from the senators today, just one question after other. And, you know, the DOJ, they say that they comply to about 90% of the FOIA requests that come in, but that number is actually not accurate at all. That's only the number of requests that are processed. That's not the number of requests that are submitted. So the real action is actually, the real percentage to that is actually about 50%. Now, the reasons that she gave as to why the DOJ is not complying is because, first of all, she says it takes time. And that's something that the senators downright rejected because, as you said, it's been 5 years since this Open Government Act was actually introduced. Another reason she said is that the Attorney General Holder and the Open Government Act itself actually don't require the agency to update its regulations, and that's something that had the critics reeling at the hearing. So I do want to play a quick clip from Thomas Blanton. He's the Executive Director of National Security at George Washington University, and he said that this Cold War mentality is just not helping out. So if we can go ahead and play that.
We don't need this pervasive national security secrecy that we used to have. In fact, the studies of the 9/11 terrorism tragedy all showed that one of the reasons that the U.S. government wasn't effective in dealing with al-Qaeda was the excessive secrecy, compartmentation of information, the lack of sharing. The reality is that to be more secure, we actually need more openness, not less.
So, Liz, that's something completely different than what we're hearing from others. You know, they say that in order to protect our security, we need to keep our secrets. He's saying that in order to protect our security, we need to open up. We need to be more transparent, and that's just something we're not seeing from a lot of these agencies.
Interesting. Ladies, appreciate you keeping us updated on what was going on these 2 very important issues on the Hill today. That was RT producer Adriana Usero and RT correspondent Meghan Lopez.